We have Larry Pohlman, who's the Chief Investment Officer at Alfred Berg. And Alfred Berg is a Nordic asset management company which oversees about $21 billion in assets. And Larry joins us this morning from Tokyo. Larry, thank you so much for joining us on this Monday morning. Let's talk about the National People's Congress. And you heard from Premier Wen Jiabao on Friday. You heard from the PBOC Central Bank Governor Zhou Xiaochuan and even his deputy governor. What have you heard so far as an investor that makes you maybe change your outlook on the markets?
Well, we had, starting on Friday, we had some great numbers in the last week on the GDP growth at moderate around 8%, and the CPI numbers were all pretty much in line with what the market's expectations were. By the way, that 8% is probably a more managed number. It might be more realistic to think about an 11% growth number for the country as a whole. I think overall the market was expecting a tighter monetary policy. I mean, the government really has to get loan growth under control, really take care of the potentials for inflation in the future. And more so than anything else is probably to really be careful about property prices. If we don't take these things under control, you can end up in a situation that we had in the United States with Greenspan, allowing too liquid prices to go on for too long and property is getting inflated.
Larry, I want to pinpoint that inflation number for you, the inflation target. We have the central government targeting 3%. Some are expecting a little bit higher than that. But a lot of brokerages said that these inflation targets are pretty much unrealistic at this point. So they're expecting a lot of tightening to come down the pipeline. How do you see them tackling monetary policy at this point? Well,
I think you're absolutely right. You have to have a stronger policy in order to keep that inflation low. The 3% is probably, again, another managed number, but the fact that the government is talking about tightening is reassuring to, I think, to most investors and certainly to ourselves.
How much of a threat is inflation right now? You mentioned the property bubble there.
Well, that is the most extraordinary one, and that you could see how quickly that could damage the economy, and particularly the recovery there, by allowing those property prices to get out of hand and to proceed too rapidly. We saw it happen in the U.S. It's a very devastating thing to an economy when property prices can take off like that. So I think that's one of the major policies that the government has to pursue here, is to manage those property prices.
You said, well, I mean, Premier Wen said that he plans to meet target growth of 8%. How difficult is it going to be then to boost growth, but at the same time prevent the economy from overheating?
Well, I think that's partially the policies that the government is talking about. A lot of the policies for the internal consumption, so in further investments, not as much as they had been doing in 2009. So there's a lot of cutbacks on infrastructure developments and the likes. And that's encouraging that the government is still doing that. These social policies are very important for the people as well as their overall economy.
Okay, Larry, let's get to the nit and grit of this as an investor then, because you talked about property. Looks like there's going to be a clampdown on that sector. What about the expansionary sectors as well? Because, trying to mention maybe boosting agriculture, clean energy and healthcare and the environment. They've all been mentioned favorably in these policy statements so far. So what's something that you would avoid right now, and what's something that you would put money into?
Well, I think overall it's a good opportunity to be very bullish on China. Year to date, it's underperformed probably almost all the other emerging market countries. So it's really cheap on a number of ratios right now. So you should be really thinking about it's in a very attractive position right now. I think the policies to increase the domestic consumption, and you mentioned the sectors, the ag, the healthcare, energy, even the banks are probably good opportunities for investments at this point in time. Things to avoid, I'll have to get back to you on that.
All right, Larry, you get back to me on that. In the meantime, enjoy your trip to Tokyo. That's Larry Pohlman, who's the Chief Investment Officer at Alfred Berg.